now, see, Vedanta is not about whether I accept Ishvara or not. It is about understanding the nature of Ishvara. And your understanding of nature of Ishvara also cannot be partial. You have to understand the total of Ishvara, not partial understanding. That won't do. So this is why the Taittiriya Upanishad says that if you do udaram antaram kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. In understanding Ishvara, if you make one slight mistake, you miss the whole vision. Why? Because if you understand, you come all the way there and you conclude who are you, you are still limited. And that means if you still conclude, you have brought this entity Ishvara which is missed by so many people, after having done so much, where does the story end? I'm still a wave, I'm still a small entity, and then what you miss is the limitless. And when you miss the limitless, between limited and limitless, what is the distance? Limitless. You miss the limitless. So this is why it's not just enough to have understanding, bring Ishvara in your life. One has to understand the reality, the totality of Ishvara. You make one little mistake and you have made what you are away from infinity by infinity.
So they make Ishvara as Satya, not as Mithya of awareness.
Yes, exactly.
So
that means, So that means, exactly. So that means, see now, when we use these terms, and that what you are saying is right. Now, the potential problem in doing this is, somehow, when I say Ishvara is Mithya, I tell myself Ishvara is not real. Hey, this is not the meaning.
Yeah, it exists.
The minute that is such a wrong understanding. This is why people have made Vedanta into Devanta. They sidelined Ishvara. Ishvara is Mithya, so let me not pay attention to it. Hey, this is not, then you miss the whole point of Vedanta. Our teacher used to say, some big scholar came to him and said, Swamiji, I got the whole Tvam-pada exactly, but I missed Ishvara. I quite can't see Ishvara. Swamiji said, you haven't understood the Tvam. In order to understand Tvam-pada, you can't understand it separate from Tat-pada. That means you haven't understood. You can't say I have understood Tvam-pada, I haven't understood Tat-pada. For understanding Tvam-pada, which is you can't miss Ishvara. And not only miss Ishvara, but you have to have a proper understanding of what is Ishvara. You can't just have your own idea of what is Ishvara. You have to. This is why pramana. Pramana means what? What is said is what has to be what? Understood. Correctly. You can't have your own ideas. So that means if you are connected to your own ideas, that means that you are not available to understand what Upanishads are saying. That means you have to put your ideas away and attempt to understand what Upanishads are saying. Because your ideas will keep you limited. And if you understand the Upanishads correctly, it will take you to limitlessness. So you choose whether you are interested in keeping your ideas or you want to go to limit. That's a choice. That's a choice which is given to a human being. So that means this is what it is. So that now, so little misunderstanding, and the cost of that little misunderstanding is what? Infinite loss. Because you miss limitlessness. So this is why the more rigorous teacher you have to be happy. Not be frightened by the rigorous teacher. So this is how it is. Because otherwise you stay with your false notions, and that is what you can devote your whole life to a pursuit, and you will not get it because you are unwilling to give up your false ideas. So there was one teacher who was actually very funny. So he was saying that people, when you start talking Vedanta, everybody thinks that they are very bright, and this is including me. So they all start, there's a whole big attitude. I know better than you kind of an attitude. And then, then what about this? They asked with such an arrogance. So there was one teacher, he's very funny. So he used to put the audience by saying, hey, you're so committed to your ideas. If your ideas had got you all the answers, you would not be here. The very fact that your ideas did not get you to where you want to go, put your ideas aside for a while and listen to me. If you are so committed to your ideas and you're so sure about your ideas being right, then you would have got all the answers. He was very clever. That was like that's true, that my ideas is making me suffer, my ideas are making me go more down in the soup. Let me put aside my ideas and let's understand some other vision. You have to put aside. If it has served you, you would have not come to Vedanta. It has not served you, so now put them aside. And he was clever. Because by the way he said, this is how I start, then I said, yeah, that's a clever way of starting, because everybody comes with a little bit of an attitude. Some people come with a lot of Shraddha. That is beautiful. But sometimes that Shraddha also makes them dull. So that means you don't want people with Shraddha, without Shraddha. You want sharp people with open mind. So that is, so now the last school of thought is remaining, and that is what, so Vishishta Advaita is also what not understood, that is also not accurate. Then the last one is na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate na tat samascha abhyadikascha drishyate parasya shaktihi vividhaiva shruyate swabhaviki gnana bala kriyacha. So here again what is talked about in Vedanta is what Ishvara and truth of Ishvara, in which you find what your truth also. This is the whole approach of this Upanishad. It doesn't start with Tvampada, it doesn't start with you, it starts with Ishvara. And in knowing Ishvara, you also get to know your true nature. That's why you need to know Ishvara totally. You can't stop at any given level if you want to know your true nature. So that means your understanding of Ishvara totally is also connected to your understanding yourself totally. So you can't be inadvertent. You can't be indifferent to understanding Ishvara. So this is why there are some people who make that one final mistake. And that is what, they do all these inquiry and they are rigorous and this and that, but they miss the presence of Ishvara. They are called Shunyavadis, Buddhist. The Buddhist school of thought, it comes so close and it misses the point. So what is here is what we say, that we are not talking, yes, he is, so that Ishvara is without a body or an organ. None like unto him is seen or better than he or she. The Vedas speak of this exalted power which is innate and capable of producing diverse effects, and also of his omniscience and might. So that means the Tatparya of Veda is not to inquire into the world and say that everything is what, ultimately what I can't even find a substance. When I look at the mountain, I found mountain as what? The rocks and then the trees, and each of this is not mountain. Then the rock itself is atom. Atom is also nothing but particles. Particle is also nothing but quark. And quark also is ultimately what? Something that we don't know what further, but ultimately it loses its tangibility. Because it loses its tangibility, then we conclude that everything is zero. That is what we call Shunyavadi. So that means they understand about that everything is mithya, but what is the conclusion?
Mithya comes to, finally goes to zero.
Exactly.
Which comes to?
Zero. No, nothing.
Yeah.
Shunya.
So how do they explain manifestation?
So this is exactly. So that means that the manifest. So that's what. See, what they say is it's just an appearance. So that means it's.
Oh, okay, like that.
So that like that they use it.
So it's like it is always zero.
It's always zero.
So even though everything is zero.
Exactly.
So they have no Ishvara?
They have no Ishvara. And they also don't have the truth of Atma as limitless. Because everything that you see reduces to zero. That is what we call Shunyavadi. Now, one thing one has to be very careful is, this is a school of Buddhism that is presented by Adi Shankaracharya. In his time, there must be some school. In today's time, there are many different Buddhist schools. And some of the Buddhist schools, which are like Tibetan Buddhism, they come very close to Vedanta. So we are not talking about the contemporary. What we are saying, everything we are talking about is what based on the commentaries of Adi Shankaracharya. And in his time, there were Shunyavadis. But even in some other Buddhist schools, there could be people who talk about Shunya. We don't know. Right now, see, otherwise what you will have to do, you will have to go and study Buddhism everywhere in detail. That's not the purpose. If anybody walks away with the idea that when I examine the universe and ultimately if my conclusion is nothing remains, that is not what Upanishads want to say, and it is logically not true. That is what the point is. Why logically it is not true?
Who's doing everything? From
No.
there?
The other thing is, because you are now not able to explain below a point, your assumption that nothing remains is the point where it attacks.
That means you are still using your perception. What is a pramana? Your pramana still is perception. Because you don't see anything, where is your conclusion that there is nothing?
But they miss also the intelligence.
They miss the
Yeah,
intelligence.
this is, they're not able to see it, right?
Because with perception you can't see it. That's why they miss it. That pramana, to arrive at the conclusion is your perception and perception based inference. Still remains that. That's where you begin to see the importance of using the pramana. Just by inference and perception you can go to the point that ultimately there is nothing. Because you don't see anything. And even through inference, when you use a scientist view, they say, ultimately it is all intangible. So this is why that pramana still remains perception and inference. And what the conclusion is what? So that means now, where is a logical contradiction in this conclusion? That everything cannot come from what? Nothing. And there is another very important logic. The second important logic is you can conclude that everything is nothing. How will you be able to negate yourself? Tell me. The one who concludes there is nothing is still there.
They speak about illusion.
They speak.
Yeah, they say it's an illusion.
So that means,
You are an illusion.
Yeah. So that means our teacher used to make fun. And at least before inquiry, you thought you were some entity. After inquiry, you conclude I'm an illusion.
I don't exist.
I don't exist.
And who knows this? I know it.
Who are you?
I don't exist.
And then why religion for illusion? When you say nothing is just an illusion, then why Buddhism? Why all these things we are doing?
No, because you have to realize, because you take it as real.
No,
You
their
take
objective is to
Jagat
tell
as
everybody
real.
that this is what they
Exactly.
I understood, so I want everybody to understand.
To understand that what you think is real is actually zero. That is what they want to convey. So, this is where, in understanding, you can't make little deviation. You can love all the Buddhist people in the world, but in this understanding, you can't make a deviation, because that will cost you your, from limitless, you will become shunya.
The only person who will be happy will be Aryabhata.
Exactly. So this is how it is. So that means what is, as Shona says, is what is. It doesn't depend upon what you like or what you don't like or anything like that. You have to see it as it is. When you see it as it is, you'll see the limitlessness will shine as clear as daylight. And if you add your own story to it, you will remain either highly limited or non-existent. So this is what it is. So, so the ultimate thing is that Vedanta Shastra is talking, and also there are some other, there are all these Neo-Vedantins. They have found a very clever way. They said, you know what, most of the people are allergic to idea of Ishvara. Why are they allergic to idea of Ishvara? Because for longest time, they were made to think that Ishvara is what away from them and they have to be what always at the mercy of Ishvara. So people don't like this idea. They want to be free from this, under control. Then you are under control of Ishvara, nobody likes to be controlled. So they want to be free from this idea. So let's conveniently just give up this idea of Ishvara, because the minute you start talking about Ishvara, people enter into their idea of Ishvara and just reject it. So let's just concentrate on what? Your nature, and let's just talk about you are this awareness, and that awareness is limitless. This is called changing the teaching to please people. My teaching, through my teaching, I don't want to make them understand something. I want to please people. You can't change your teaching to please people. That teaching is what? Because the teaching is not about you or what I like or what you like. The teaching is about realities. Realities we don't create, we have to understand the realities as they are. That is, if you haven't understood that as the first thing, then how far will you go? You can't go far. So therefore, Ishvara, if it is, it's not, ocean, it only likes to think about water. This wave only, I only want to know I'm water. Why should I bother about ocean? It's not a question of bothering or not bothering. That your very being, if you deny the ocean, you are actually denying your own being.
You are the creation of ocean.
Because you are not the creation. Because the existence of wave is within what? Ocean. It's not a matter of choice. It's a matter of, if you want to, by your own discretion, look at this, if you avoid thinking about the entity ocean, which is very much there, and not only very much there, it pervades every wave, And you say, I don't want to think about it and I still want the truth. With this mindset, will you ever arrive at the truth? Because you will only think about, yeah, this wave is water and that water is what? What have you solved? Tell me. You've only solved one part of the equation, 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. Where does it take you? How will you arrive at the fact that this awareness, that is your true nature, is the truth of the universe? How will you arrive at it? In order to arrive at it, you need to understand one entity called Ishvara. Otherwise, it's not possible.
That is the link.
That's the link through which you come to know your true nature, which is awareness, which is limitless. If you avoid it, you just make yourself some water which is hanging. What hanging water will not get you anywhere. Hanging awareness, so then it will only make you this, oh yeah, I'm this awareness, oh I'm this awareness. You will keep on, oh I'm this limitless awareness. And you will be in your fantasy world of awareness. It is such a point. I tell you, people write books. So this is why you have to get it right. This is what it is reminding you. After negating all the schools, it says, what is really Vedanta talking about? It reminds you again. Okay, so what is this, what is Vedanta? Ekaha devaha sarva bhuteshu ghudaha sarva vyapi sarva bhutantaratma karma dhyakshaha sarva bhutadhivasaha sakshi kevalaha nirgunascha. Beautiful. So Vedanta is not talking about what the Vaisheshika, Nayayika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purvamimamsaka, Buddha, Vishishtadvaita. It's not talking about any of that. What is it talking about then? It's talking about Ekaha Deva. So that is what one Ishvara. What is this nature of this Ishvara? Sarva Bhuteshu Ghudaha. It is something that Ishvara is in and through all beings. Then Sarva Vyapi. Because it is in and through all beings, it is what? Pervading everything. Then Sarva Bhutantaratma. So that means it is really, and that is not just one being which is pervading everything. It is also the nature of I. The real nature of everybody's self-evident I. Sarva Bhutantaratma. It is Karma Dhyakshaha. What is Karma Dhyakshaha? It is the platform on which what? It creates a platform in which all the karmas and all the interactions takes place. But it's not only the platform. Please understand, it's also the characters, it's also the laws, it is also what? The results, it is everything. So that means what? It is Karma Dhyakshaha Sarva Bhutadhivasaha. Everything that is existing in all three periods of time, in the past, present and future, through cycles of what? Creation, which are manifest and unmanifest, exists within this Ishvara and is Ishvara. And from its own standpoint, which is what? Its own true nature, which is what? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. It is Cheta. It's Chit Swarupa. Ishvara doesn't have confusion about what is the true nature. This is why the teaching can take place from Ishvara. It is itself is what? From its own standpoint, it is what? Sakshi. Doesn't get involved in anything. It is of Chit Swarupa Kevalaha Nirgunascha. That means it is only one, there is no second, and it is without any attributes. This is the vision of Upanishad. None of the other ones. So this is what, after negating everything, it says what is Tatparya. Tatparya means intention of Upanishads. So there is a very, I had recently, I had gone to, I was invited at Lit Fest, Times of India Lit Fest, and I had to enter into, like I was discussing with one big scholar. She has written some books on Ramayana, and she has a PhD from University of Chicago. Nice woman, and she has written some books, very nice. I thought the books were nice also. So somebody, and we entered into a conversation, and it was very interesting. She got to know what is the traditional, because she had studied all these her PhD was in classical literature. So classical literature means they study all this classical literature, and she got fascinated by Ramayana, and then she was, she did books on that. And she kind of, and I have studied Ramayana, little bit, not much, but little bit of Ramayana and Mahabharata, but in a traditional manner, in the way of, it's not academic way. It is what, it is this, this traditional way of where do you place Ramayana and Mahabharata in this whole vision of Vedanta, in that way. So we entered into a conversation, and it was interesting because my viewpoints were really quite different from her viewpoints. Because she was looking at it only as an epic, but she had interesting points to make. And while we were entering, it was quite interesting. I was listening to her, she was listening to me, it was wonderful. Now, one person in the audience asked her a question, says, which interpretation of Ramayana, based on which interpretation of Ramayana you are giving your opinion, asked her. And she gave a very nice answer. And which is how it is, this is how it should be. She says that when we look into Ramayana, we try not to interpret it. We try to understand what is the original intention of what the author. If your translations are based on your interpretation, you are deviating from what? The original intention of the author. Her answer was very clever, and this is exactly what we are trying to do. If you are studying Upanishads, it's not like you interpret it the way you want, I interpret it the way I want, you interpret it, and we are all right. Hey, there is an original intention, and the person who captures the original intention is the one who is in touch with what? The reality. So that means whenever you are studying a text, your attempt should be to what? Capture the intention of the author as accurately as possible without adding your own story to it. Her answer was a very scholarly answer, wonderful answer. This is exactly what is required in Pramana Pravritti. When you're reading Upanishads, you don't add your own stories. You try to understand what Upanishad is saying. What is the original intention? The more you understand and keep your ideas away, the more you have got what Upanishad says. So that was a very nice way of looking at it. So that means if you are studying the Vedas, it's not, I like Ishvara, I don't like, I'm not comfortable with idea of Ishvara. So many people told me, oh yeah, now you are teaching Vedanta and you teach everywhere. So are you introducing Ishvara or not? I said, yeah. They said, how are you getting away with it? Yeah, I said, why not? What? Getting away with it. Yeah. So that means that some very big people ask me that.
Because I think somewhere they think
They are
Ishvara is
so
religion and
afraid,
all you-
exactly.
That's what they think.
They are so afraid. This is, you see, the story they tell themselves is, the minute I introduce Ishvara, it will become religion, and the minute it becomes religion, then people will, I can't be teaching in a secular environment. This is a logic. So I say, hey, I teach Ishvara, but I make sure that they don't get away with what their idea of Ishvara. I have to present them with not my, Upanishad's idea, not even idea, it's a vision. It's not one idea among many ideas. It is the truth. I have to make them see what is the Upanishad's vision of Ishvara. And if they are open, they can't but see the presence of Ishvara. Why? Because it's everywhere. So this is how the Upanishads are talking about Ishvara and the truth of Ishvara. If it was about forms you can know through what? Your perception and inference. You don't need Upanishads. I liked Anna's answer yesterday. Very brilliant answer she gave. She says that the forms that you are seeing are objects. And Upanishads are not talking about what? The nature of objects. They are talking about Ishvara and you, which is not available for objects. So how can it change the perception of objects? The subject matter is what? Ishvara and awareness. Brilliant answer. Because if you think, see, when you want to change perception means what? You want to see Ishvara now. That is what is called change perception. When you want to see Ishvara, you are making Ishvara as an object. That is a very clever answer. We don't think about things like that. It requires a lot of thoughts to arrive at these kind of answers. And you make teacher proud by giving these kind of answers. So this is how it is, right? You can't deviate. So that is, you have to remind yourself that it is talking about this Ishvara and also what? The truth of Ishvara, which happens to be what? Your Antaratma, which happens to be your truth. This is the subject matter of Upanishad. You can't change the subject matter according to your likes. Then the next one is Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam Neema vidyuto bhanti kuto yamadnihi Tameva pantam anubhati sarvam Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. So, here is it's very nice. This is a verse that we use, when we do Aarti. This is the mantra that we use. In Dakshinamurti temple, in every temple we use, this is our Aarti mantra.
Even here for Gita Jayanti they used.
They used it's a very nice, see, our teacher, first let's look at little bit lighter and then see the Upanishad meaning. Many of you may have gone to South Indian temples. So, when you go to South Indian temples, it's a huge structure and it's all little dark. There's not much sun inside, so it's all dark. Now, as you keep going in, the deity is not like, if you go to some of these huge temples, it is not like immediately you see the deity. You go to Meenakshi, you go to this Chidambaram, you go to Tirupati, you are lost in this huge place. So there is no sun and also it's darkness, and then you move through darkness. Then you go close to Garbhagraha is where the deity is. And it becomes even darker. And the deity's color is also black.
Granite.
It's granite, so black granite. So it is also black. So when you go there, what happens? You can't see a thing most of the time. Then the priest comes. What does the priest come with? The light. And the priest, what shows you the deity. And when the priest is showing, they go from top till bottom. And the priest keeps showing you, and with the help of the light and the priest, you see what?
The deity.
The totality of the deity. Symbolic. Ishvara is hidden from our understanding because of what? Darkness of ignorance. It's all dark. And deeper you go, it's all dark and darker and darker. It becomes unfathomable, you can't get it. Then, what is the light? Upanishads. Upanishad Vakya. But the light itself, if it is not used properly, you can't see what? The deity from top to bottom. Who is this priest? The teacher. The teacher shows the light from what? Top to bottom, so that you can understand what? Ishvara in its totality. Not some, oh yeah, it's one little lala here and oh yeah, I'm doing seva. It's not like that. That is beautiful. Nothing is wrong with that. It's wonderful. They're very nice. It's nice to emotionally relate. Wonderful. But that is not complete. We don't need to criticize anyone. We just need to see the partiality of that vision. Wonderful. They're nice people. They have their own journey. But if you want to see the totality of Ishvara, you need what? That light which is Upanishad. You need somebody who's using that light to make you see the totality clearly. Now, if your eyes, even though that process is going on, if your eyes are defective, will you be able to see? No. So that means the teacher is perfect, the Upanishads have perfect vision, but if the mind which is a recipient, if it is not prepared, will it get the things right?
It's like you go to the temple, you're worried about the expensive slipper we left outside, you can't see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that means your mind has to be there and not thinking about something else. And also, even if you're looking there, if your eyes are not sharp, you will not. While looking, you will not see. And your mind is also there, but you will still not see. So this is how the whole thing is like that. We enter this world with all darkness. Our visions are very partial. Then there is a light which is shown. And what is the nature of the teaching about Ishvara? is said in this mantra. What does the priest make you see about Ishvara? Beautiful. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakaha. If you want to use the sun to see what Ishvara, will the sun light up Ishvara as an object?
No.
No. Will the na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakaha. Will the moon reveal Ishvara to you? No. Tarakaha is the stars. Why? Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Generally, you use sun to see what the light of the sun to see other objects. What is Ishvara? Ishvara is that which makes the sun what it is.
To the truth of sun.
It's the truth of sun. It is the sun and also the truth of sun. So it says there is only one thing which is bhati, which is self-shining, and everything is what? Shining after it. And that self-shining is not available as an object. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarva. You are the only one thing which is self-shining and everything shines after you. Tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. Everything exists because of you. Everything is you. Everything is sustained by you. And you are not what? Something which is capable of being seen as what? An object through the sun, the moon, the stars. Or then he says, if the sun, moon and the stars cannot reveal you, what about this little light?
This Vidyut also.
Yeah, Vidyut, the lightning cannot reveal you. Then what about this little light? This is the mantra.
So the little light is the Aarti light.
The Aarti light. This little light itself is incapable of what? Lighting up Ishvara. But you need that light of knowledge to know what? The truth of Ishvara. Not as an object, but as the truth. And as your truth, which cannot be objectified. Brilliant! Even the prayers are brilliant. This simple little mantra shows entire Vedanta. That's why one cannot be allergic to this whole mantra and the whole tradition.
But it's important to understand these mantras.
It is important to understand this. These mantras are mind-blowing.
And to be need to understood it correctly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
In that one mantra. So our teacher used to use one method to make us see what is bhati and what is anubhati. Anubhati means now, so I see this object. So that means what? This object shines in front of my eyes. Yeah? Shines in front of me. Now it says, if there was no sun, will you be able to see this object? No. So first it seemed to you that this object shines. Now you understand that bhati. Now you understand it is anubhati. Anubhati means it shines after. What is the original source? The sun. So this becomes anubhati, and what is bhati is what? The sun. The sun shines and this shines after. Anubhati means shines after. Then he used to say, you close your eyes. Is the sun shining? The sun could be shining, but can you see it? So in fact, in order to use the sunlight to see an object, you need what? Eyes. Otherwise it will not shine. So now, sun becomes what? Anubhati, because the sun will, for me, it will not do the job unless what? I have my eyes. So sun becomes what? Anubhati. And what becomes bhati?
Eyes.
Your eyes. Now your eyes, without a mind, can't do the sight. So now, what happens? The eyes become Anubhati and what? The mind becomes Bhati. Now, the mind is what? Anubhati, and there is only one thing, Bhati. That is what? Consciousness. Everything shines after. There is only one thing which is self-shining, and that is consciousness. Without